What is one of the biggest questions in life that's only one word? Why? It's The Real Estate Show. Welcome to The Real Estate Show. My name is Rick Naples. I am the owner-broker of Zone Realty LLC. You zone your home. And I'm filming today from my office at my home in Bristol, Connecticut. Why? Why buy a house? Why now? It's an interesting question. You know, we think about where the market has been and where we're going. We think about all the things that have happened in the past concerning the housing market. We saw prices rising, interest rates rising. We don't know if we're going into a recession. People are having a hard time saving money, even though employment is great at this particular point in time. Why buy a house? Well, there's a number of reasons, and it's a very interesting question to answer. It could be a very difficult question for some people. It could be a very easy question for other people. There are several things that are going on that might make it a good time for you to buy a house now, especially this year in 2023. And as I just said, we've just been through a lot. It's kind of all behind us right now. Are we seeing mortgage rates increase? Yes, we are. But not as much as we saw in the past. They're still going to go up, this is what I'm reading, but not as fast as before. Are we going to see house prices go up? Well, statistically and historically, home prices always seem to go up. I mean, that's just the natural thing of the real estate market. But they're not going to increase as fast as they were before. And on the other hand, we're also seeing that even though the inventories are very low, we're seeing that as houses are coming on the market, most sellers are starting to get into that mind frame of wanting to negotiate a little more with a buyer that comes along than they were in the past. And what I mean by that is, just recently, we saw the things happening where prices went up on houses. There was a lot of competition because there wasn't a lot of houses on the market. People were in a buying frenzy, paying over asking price. It was a little crazy. Well, all that now is behind us and has gone away. And we're finding that the houses that are on the market are staying on the market a little longer. This means that sellers are looking for ways to attract those buyers to their house, and they're a little more open to negotiation. We're starting to see the credits come back, where a seller might be willing to negotiate a little bit more. In other words, if a buyer is asking for help on closing costs, or perhaps after the home inspection, they want a credit towards some repairs that are needed to be done, or even some help in order to obtain the mortgage. I've seen sellers now offering monies to pay down the mortgage rate a little bit to make the house a little more affordable for buyers. In other words, they'll pay for a point or maybe 2 points on the loan. And those are things we weren't seeing in the past, and we're starting to see now. Let's take a look at this presentation I put together that kind of highlights some of the reasons you might consider as to why buy. So there are challenges that are out there. Why buy? Now, the presentation just showed some of the reasons. There's a lot of articles that are out there right now via the internet, newspapers, magazines, specialty magazines, whatever you might want to read out there. And there's a lot of pros and cons. You know, folks that were looking to purchase a home last year may have waited hoping that the mortgage rates were going to steady out. They may have hoped that, prices might have come down. Is that true? Well, again, as I said, mortgage rates are going to rise, and they have been rising, but they're not rising as fast. Are home prices going to come down? Well, we've seen in some cases where homes have been on the market a little bit longer, sellers have been willing to drop the price on the home to try to attract that pool of buyers that's out there that are ready and able to purchase a home. So are prices going to come down? Well, in some areas, yes. In other areas, maybe not so much. It gets to the point of you have to focus in your own mind, what is your motivation or why are you going to move forward when it comes to looking at purchasing a house? And later on in the show, I'm going to talk about preparedness, which is very important as you're getting ready to enter the real estate market. But let's talk about mortgage interest rates at this particular point in time. The interest rates have been going up and going up and going up, and it's made some buyers kind of hesitate as to whether or not to jump into the market. How high are these interest rates going to go? And for every 1 point that an interest rate jumps up, that affects what the monthly amount's going to be on the home. And that makes it cost prohibitive for some people. Where before when we had a 3 or 4% mortgage rate and someone might be able to afford that mortgage payment, at 6 or 7%, that same house, that same price, that mortgage payment's a lot higher. So it may make someone step back as to whether or not to move forward. Since the interest rates have gone up, the federal government now has looked at that situation and wants to help stimulate the housing market. So what they've done is they've looked at what's called the mortgage insurance. That's the private mortgage insurance that's put on a home that's part of your mortgage payment if you put less than 20% down. And it could add several $100s over the course of the life of the loan to your mortgage payment or your mortgage amount. It affects the monthly amount, and it could affect that monthly amount by a dollar amount that, again, might make that payment not so much affordable for a particular individual. So the FHA has stepped in and decided to reduce the premium on mortgage insurance. Now, I am not a mortgage officer, so I suggest that if you're looking to get into the real estate market and purchase a home, when you're shopping around for a mortgage, you talk to a mortgage officer for details as to what that program is doing for first-time buyers and how that will affect the monthly payment. Speaking of monthly payments, I just want to make a quick mention here that, don't be fooled by the interest rate. There are a lot of programs that are out there. There's a lot of mortgage programs. And as I said, I'm not a mortgage officer. So talk to a professional mortgage individual on the different programs that are out there. Sometimes you'll see a very attractive low interest rate on a mortgage loan. You want to know what that program's all about and what is the true annual percentage rate. In other words, what is the true cost of that loan over time and how does that affect that monthly payment? So just as the old saying goes, buyer beware. Make sure you compare programs and that you shop around and you look at what a program actually is and not only what that payment's going to be, but what the cost is going to be over the long run. Now, housing inventories are starting to increase. It is getting into the springtime at this filming, so we're seeing some more houses start to come on the market. That means as a buyer, you're going to have more choices that are out there. But also, too, it means more buyers are going to come out. We're not going to see the competition as aggressive as we did before. In other words, we're not going to see a bunch of buyers competing and offering over asking price like we did last year. Maybe on a specific house, we might see that a little bit, but we're not going to see it on all houses anymore. So there's more houses to choose from, and now sellers that are willing to negotiate, it kind of puts you in a situation where now may be the time for you to make a move forward and look at buying a house. There are a lot of things, though, you've got to take into consideration, though, personally, if you're looking to move forward. And we'll take a look at that in just a moment after this. So as I had mentioned earlier, one of the things that you need to do when you're trying to answer that question, why buy, why now, however you want to phrase it, is preparation. And I've gone over preparation to buy a house on the real estate show several times, and it's always a good thing to kind of go through it again. So let's say you've decided that maybe my life situation is where I'm looking to get into the real estate market and purchase a home. How do I start? Where do I go? What do I need in order to do that? Well, first of all, you have to take an assessment of your finances. Buying a home is going to be a long-term commitment, and we're finding that those folks that do purchase a home are staying in the home longer than they had in the past. So you want to make sure you're prepared to do that. You're going to have to get, unless you have the ability to buy cash, a mortgage. And mortgages do require certain things in order to approve the loan on the house you wish to purchase. So not only do you need to go through all the steps of purchasing the home, but you also need to go through the preparation to get ready to buy that home, and that's going through the mortgage process. So I always talk about putting together your finances. Now, what does that mean? Well, you know what you earn, obviously. You get a paycheck, so you kind of know what your income is. But what is your actual debt? And think about debt on the whole. Everything you possibly owe or have to pay on. This can be anything from credit cards to student loans to car loans to personal loans, anything like that. Perhaps you've signed up and you give charitable contributions every single year. All those things that affect your income are your debts or your obligations. And the mortgage officer is going to look at what you got coming in and what you have going out in order to determine where you are or how much house they believe you can afford, or a dollar amount you can afford on a mortgage. So once all that is done, once you've assembled all your financing, you'll then talk to a mortgage officer, look at different programs, and come up with what's called a pre-approval or a pre-qualification for an amount that you can shop for. This then allows you to start looking at houses. Now, it's fun to start looking at houses when you're considering to buy on the internet. But of course, all you're going to see on the internet is the house in its best shape, best form. You're going to see what's being the asking price of the house, and you're going to tour virtual tours or pictures or whatever the realtor may have posted for you to look at. You're going to be impressed on a lot of houses. Wow, that looks really nice. Or this house is in a location I want to be in, and so on and so forth. But you want to make sure that that house has an affordability factor. In other words, is it a house you're going to be able to buy? You don't want to go out looking at houses that are beyond your reach or are not going to be realistic for you to be able to buy. So, you start to look at some houses, you put together your mortgage. Now, how do you get all of that together? Well, obviously, I'm a realtor, so I'm going to recommend that you seek out a realtor. Why seek a realtor? Well, they are the individuals that have their pulse on the market as to what's going on. They also have accessibility to all of the houses that are up for sale. So unless there's a house that's in a secret sale, in other words, somebody hasn't put it on the market and they're thinking of selling and you happen to know them personally, you're going to get an opportunity to look at all the different houses that are available. The realtor is also going to be able to advise and guide you on certain houses. In other words, when you go out with a realtor and you're looking at a house, you can look at the home through fresh eyes. A lot of times people think, well, I want to negotiate directly with the seller. I'm going to go out and look for a seller that's selling the house on their own and not using a realtor. Well, let's just use some common sense. When a seller puts their home on the market, and I'm talking to you buyers out there, they want to sell their home. So they're going to tell you what you want to hear. They're not going to tell you any negatives. They're not going to point out any flaws. They want to sell their home. So sometimes negotiating or talking directly to the seller might not be in your best interest. It's almost, well, I'm not going to say it's like, because we do have different situations here, but it's almost like if you had to go to court and defend yourself without hiring an attorney and you're against another attorney. You don't have the knowledge or the expertise for those negotiations, so you might not be doing yourself that big of a favor. By working with a realtor, they do several transactions a year. They've gone through hundreds of houses in their careers. They kind of know what to look for, where the downfalls or where the challenges are going to be. So it's nice to have that expertise or that set of eyes on you. So you're going to put your finances together. You're going to talk to a mortgage officer or a mortgage lender to look at the different programs that are out there to get pre-qualified, and you're going to hire a realtor so that you have that expertise in the marketplace that you need in order to find a home that works for you. Let's look at this quick presentation that I put together on just some of the processes in getting ready to buy a home. The question why buy? Why buy now? Or as I said, any way you want to phrase it, is an interesting question. Is it the time for you to make a move into the real estate market? Is it time for you to make that jump? You have to make that decision. There's lots of reasons why, and there's lots of reasons why not. And you have to kind of weigh one against the other to see if it makes sense for you. Preparation, as I said, is the key. Making sure that you're prepared to move forward and that you put all the steps in order to move forward, in order to buy a house. Sometimes the best way to start is to contact or work with a realtor. You know, the realtor can guide you through the processes that you need and tell you what you need to assemble in order to get ready to move forward. Buying a house is not an everyday thing for the average person that's out there. It's an everyday thing for someone that's in the profession because that's what they do. This is what realtors do. But for yourself, you might only buy 1 or 2 households in your whole lifetime. Some people do buy more. Some people are real estate investors and they're very savvy as far as the market is concerned and resale values and so on and so forth. But unless you're in that business, you want to work with an expert. There's a lot of different things that you also have to consider when you're considering that big question of why. Is a home or a house in your life situation of where you can move forward and enjoy living in a home? You know, there's things that you have to consider when you do buy a house that you may not have thought of. You know, a house is an interesting thing because it does not only have a mortgage payment to it, but it also has maintenance costs. I mean, when you buy a home, the home is going to be sitting on some land, and you're going to have to take care of that land. You're going to have to take care of the house. You're going to have to fix things, repair things, mow lawns, shovel driveways here in New England. There's a lot of things that are involved in just getting the house and maintaining and living in the house. It's not like you buy a house, move in, and that's it. There's a lot of things that are involved. You also have to consider the house itself and the cost to run the house. In other words, what I mean by that is utilities. A lot of houses here in the state of Connecticut are oil heat, some are gas, some are all electric. What's it going to cost you to run that house, to be comfortable in that house? What's the oil cost, electric cost, gas costs, and so on and so forth going to be? You also have to consider the taxes on the home. You know, taxes, unlike a regular retail sale on a house, are different. You have what's called a property tax, and that's charged every year, and that has to be paid every single year on that particular property. So you've got to factor in that. A lot of times when you go ahead and you get a mortgage, you're going to find that the mortgage officer will construct the loan in such a way where the private mortgage insurance, as I mentioned earlier, the insurance, homeowner's policy, the taxes, property taxes, and the mortgage principal and interest are all rolled into one monthly payment to make it easy for you. And they do what's called escrowing the money every time you make a payment, and they have the money to pay the taxes and pay the insurance, and you don't have to worry about it. Why is a big question to answer, and you need to answer that for yourself. This has been The Real Estate Show. My name is Rick Naples. Thank you very much for watching.
The Saybrook Fish House in Canton has been serving fresh seafood, chicken, and steak entrees for 34 years, offering 3 cozy dining room settings, a newly renovated pub with craft beer, wine by the glass, specialty cocktails, and a lighter fare menu. Open for lunch and dinner 7 days a week. Reservations accepted for parties of 2 to 42, and gift certificates are also available. The Saybrook Fish House, nestled at the crossroads of Route 44, 202, and 179 in Canton.